This is Curt Frantz reporting for Infowars at Infowars.com and Prison Planet at PrisonPlanet.com. In this report, I'll describe how you can control the world without the use of force. But first, I want to note that if that is your goal, you are a unhealthy, disrespectful, self-absorbed piece of human debris, desirous of unimaginable evil. But let's put that aside. If you want to conquer an enemy who's larger and more powerful than you, there's 4 things you need to do. First, make yourself stronger. Second, gather intelligence about the enemy. Make yourself smarter. Third, weaken the enemy. And fourth, deceive the enemy. Make them stupider about you. To strengthen yourself, you have to have money and power to begin with, or something that people with money and power can't buy with their money. You have to have more than just yourself. You can't conquer the world alone. So the other sick people who also are desirous of ruling the world, you have to form with them a cabal. You can consider yourself the ruling elites. Now, part of getting yourself stronger is to control governments. If you can control governments, you control the writing of laws, the ruling on laws, the enforcement of laws that allows you to escape repercussions for illegal acts. It allows you to punish through the law anybody who's a threat to you. Now, to gain control of governments, you can do that with threats, through bribery, through blackmail, and through murder. Also, if you can control the media, you can control the narrative. You can promote your agenda. You can dictate what the spin on a narrative is. So when you have those things in hand, you can grow the government larger, give it more control. You have control of the laws, you can control the wealth. You can do that through taxation, through regulation, through shuffling of jobs within industries, through crony capitalism. You can control health through socialized medicine, nationalized medicine, Obamacare, single payer. You can control power, energy, its distribution, its production. You have control of the militaries. You can make them stronger or weaker, the perception of them stronger or weaker. You can determine who goes to war when and outcomes of wars. When gathering intelligence about the enemy to get yourself smarter, you can do that by collecting social information, social media information, just spying on them, by monitoring communications, by tracking movements. To weaken the enemy, you go after their big dogs. If you're after a global world government, then you want to go after the Western countries, the freest and wealthiest of the countries. And among those, America would be your #1 target. So there are 3 things you do to make the enemy weaker. First, you reduce their numbers. Second, you reduce their willingness to fight. And the third thing is you reduce their ability to fight. To reduce their numbers, you promote a smaller family size. You promote guilt over overpopulation. You make it easier to have abortions. You promote wealthier countries having a smaller percentage of the global population. It's not only within a country that you seek to make the number smaller, you seek to make the number smaller collectively. You form unions among nations, European Union, North American Union, the Trans-Pacific Union, partnership. And then you have fewer entities. Instead of 195 countries, you have a handful of unions over which you have to then gain control. After reducing their number, the second thing you do to weaken an enemy is to reduce their willingness to fight. Now, why do people willing to go to war? Well, it's generally the triumvirate of God, country, family. So you go after all 3 of those. You weaken God by moving it out of the public square. And God, generally, in the United States in particular, is Christian God. 85% of the religious people in the United States are Christian. You mock them as Bible clingers. To weaken the country support, you apologize for the U.S. You promote globalism over Americanism. America is nothing special. You mock populism, call it xenophobic. You seek to destroy national identity, allowing illegal immigration and importing foreigners who don't seek to assimilate. You allow a breakdown of law and order by selective enforcement. You coarsen culture, lower the value system, and lower expectations. You engage in many long-lasting wars, such that battle fatigue sets in. You weaken the family at its source through drug births, separate rooms for baby, let them cry out, formula feeding, daycare at early age. You use feminism as a cause to separate baby from mom, promote a high divorce rate, a high number of births out of wedlock through government policy. You encourage single-parent homes. You redefine marriage. The family breakdown leads to a weakened sense of self in adults, which makes them more malleable. Now, why would anyone want to fight for these as they become less relevant, less important, less valued? The third way you weaken the enemy is to reduce their ability to fight. You take away their freedoms because of fear of something greater, safety or security or the environment. You disarm the populace. You wussify the population, reducing manliness. You promote soy boys, gender confusion, metrosexuals. You generate more dependency and weakness. You emphasize being entertained and distracted, which leads to sedentary lifestyles and obesity. You reduce mobility, promoting public transportation, limited distance electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles, which are not under the control of the individual. You use divide and conquer. You promote group identity and exaggerate societal problems between groups to generate internecine wars. You flood the country with easily accessible opioids and other psychoactive drugs. You do mass poisoning with chemicals in the food supply, fluoride in the drinking water, mercury fillings, vaccinations, genetically modified foods. You withhold medical breakthroughs, which must be government approved. In addition to these three things, you take out the leaders. America as a national leader and President Trump as an individual leader, fighters of globalism. To deceive the enemy, you control the flow of information to them, dumbing them down. You're secretive about yourself and your goals. You use propaganda such that all of the above is either good, popular, just, or unavoidable. You control the education system, public schools. You identify yourself as a savior, portraying government as the solution to all problems. That the individual does best by turning their life over to you. Whether or not all of this was planned in some master plan is irrelevant. It's been in place for decades. And there are a set of people, the ruling elites, prepared to step in and lead a one-world government, a new world order. If they were to achieve that evil end, centralize global power, it would be the death of individual freedom. The war is engaged. It is not Americanism versus globalism. It is individualism versus globalism. And as an individual, you have no choice but to choose a side. If you just go along with what propagandists push, then you are their dupe and you strengthen them. If you embrace what they promote and parrot it, then you are a foot soldier. In either case, you are an enemy of we the people, of freedom, of humanity. This is not yet and doesn't have to be a bloody war. We can capitulate, there would be no blood, there would be no freedom. We can roll back the dark forces through exposure and enlightenment and choosing freedom and personal responsibility over submission to tyranny. But if the dark forces pushing the dupes, the cannon fodder, their foot soldiers, to violence, if they incite them to violence, then bloodshed is inevitable. This is Curt Frantz reporting for Infowars at Infowars.com and Prison Planet at PrisonPlanet.com.